Hold on, what if I dunk it? Oh, fuck. Ah!
I know we're only a few months into the release of PlayStation VR 2, but doesn't it kind of feel like it's basically been given no support? I mean, let's really think about that for a second, alright? Horizon Call of the Mountain is probably the biggest game on the platform right now. And realistically, it's a basic VR game with amazing visuals. It's not anything that's realistically a system seller, and while it is a cool experience, you can get something very similar on the Oculus Quest, or sorry, the Meta Quest, or whatever bullshit. The other two big games are Gran Turismo 7, which is a full VR conversion of Gran Turismo 7 from PlayStation 5, which is pretty awesome, and especially if you like racing games, that's really, really cool. But for me, it's not the greatest thing ever, but I do like zipping around in a car every once in a while, so I'll give you that one if you're a big fan, but whatever. And then the other game is the Resident Evil 8 VR port, which is really, really cool, but on the other hand, it's like, what's that? What's next? Like, we got a big showcase that came around, and the PlayStation VR 2 section basically had 3 things that looked amazing, or not even amazing, but pretty cool, like Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted 2, which I'm excited to play, but when is that coming? Where are the big things that are actually pushing VR forward and making PlayStation VR be in the spotlight? And even if we even think about the games that came to PlayStation VR 1, why aren't they being ported to PlayStation VR 2 where they want the system to continue on? Like, where's Astrobot? It's widely praised as one of the best platformers ever made, and for some reason it's just totally dropped off on PlayStation VR 2? Like, shouldn't that have been one of the first games ported? Even Blood and Truth, like it got a PlayStation 5 patch, but only if you play it on PlayStation VR 1, and who the hell wants to do that on that broken piece of garbage? Like, people are in for VR 2, so why not give it to them for VR 2, am I right? It just feels kind of crazy, like especially when we're looking at games that are like, this is your opportunity to fill in this market, this is the opportunity to come out big and release Half-Life Alyx, release Half-Life Alyx 2, release Resident Evil 4 VR, which is supposed to be coming, but there's just huge gaps, and you can't have that right now. When you're trying to build out a content library and you're trying to get people invested in picking up a brand new piece of hardware and putting all of their time into it and really giving it all they got into VR, you need games. Like, you can't just have basically some of the games that you had on PlayStation VR 1 with a couple of new ones, and that's it. That's not doing anything for anybody. That's not getting people actively engaged, and that's not getting people to constantly pick up their headset. I mean, I feel like the only people that are really digging VR right now are people who are absolutely addicted to Gran Turismo VR, and they just love racing, and they just can't get enough racing. They got the wheel, they got the setup, they got everything, and they just go crazy all day, zoom, 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 ripping down the road. That's them, and that's their life. It's VR for life with that kind of shit. But other than that, most people are like, okay, this is whatever, I played for 10 minutes, I did a couple bit of climbing, and that's it, I'm done with it. Even me, I love VR. I think VR is really, really cool, but I haven't touched my PlayStation VR 2 in over a month. And that's because there's been nothing going on with it. And the things that have come out have been basically mid and not really worth spending any time with. Where are the big games that people actually need to be drawn into the platform? Because as much as Phil Spencer wants to say that you don't actually need great games to get people to buy a system or whatever, he's 100% wrong, and I don't know what he's smoking to come up with that, but you need great games to draw people in. The only reason why people will play a certain system is because there's a great game on it that they want to play. And that's what it is. You can 100% sell a system based on having a good quality game, and the one thing that the PlayStation VR 2 needs right now is a great quality game, an unbelievable quality game. Like, I'm talking one of the best games ever made needs to come to the PlayStation VR 2, and if it does, people will buy it. That's the goal. That's all they need. If Half-Life Alyx 2 is a PlayStation VR 2 title, people will jump in like crazy. Because they'll be able to get a better experience on PlayStation VR 2 than they would on PC, because PC is going to charge them 10 times more by needing a more expensive headset, by needing more room, by needing a beefier PC. It's just a much bigger barrier cost of entry to get inside that, when on PlayStation 5, you get a PlayStation 5, you get the headset, you're good to go. That's it. You're ready. And yeah, sure, even together that costs a lot, of course, and that's one of the reasons why people don't like that, is because there is a large cost associated with it. But when you got a game that's just pulling you in, and it's supposed to be a masterpiece, and it's probably going to be the best virtual reality experience ever made ever in history, then that's how you're going to get people. It's the same kind of thing with Starfield. Xbox pretends like Starfield's not a system seller or whatever, but it absolutely is. And if it wasn't on PC, people would buy an Xbox just to play that game. Just how if it was a PlayStation VR 2 exclusive, people would buy the headset just to play that game. It's just what it is. Like, the sad thing is that if we look at the past, PlayStation actually released a different piece of hardware called the PlayStation Vita, which don't pretend like you bought it, because you definitely didn't buy it, because if you did buy it, the thing would still be around, but nobody bought it, which is why it died. And that's the same kind of path the PlayStation VR 2 is following. It's following the same path of releasing with kind of an okay library, and then getting a trickle feed of pretty decent games, with maybe every one in a while being actually worthwhile and something that you gotta dump some cash into to play. But other than that, it's got nothing, and people aren't buying them, and it's not selling, and it's gonna be left alone, and it's gonna die. And it's because there's just nothing there. Like, especially, there's no social media apps, there's no media apps, there's nothing really cool or worthwhile to do in the PlayStation VR2 other than play these small, unique games. And a lot of them aren't even unique. They feel like the same games available on MetaQuest, except they just look a little better. Like, what's the point? You need to have something that's actually worth drawing people in, that's actually gonna be like, oh my god, you need to strap this on your head and you need to play this game because it is unreal. And right now, it's like, that's just not what it is. There's nothing really there to just suck you in. There are things that are cool experiences. That's all it is, it's cool experiences. And yeah, sure, at the same time, the hardware's only really 4 months or so old. And VR probably doesn't really allow to have fast ports because you probably need a ton of development time to make sure a game can actually work well in a virtual space, especially by mixing up the hardware so much. That's fine, I understand that. They're gonna take their time and there are gonna be games that come out. It's the same kind of situation with PlayStation 3 where people are like,
There's no games. What's the point of the system? There's no games.
Yeah, for sure. Same thing with PlayStation VR2. There's no games right now. Realistically, there are no games. But I'm sure games are coming. The thing is, are they going to be unbelievable games that make people buy the headset, or are they going to be mid games that make people not give a damn? Out of all my friends, out of literally everybody I know, I am the only person with a PlayStation VR 2. Nobody else cares. One, because they think it's too expensive, and two, because they know that there's literally nothing to play. There's nothing that they are absolutely dying to play. So they need that game. And I think that's the case for most people. I'm sure there are a lot of people that are actually interested in playing PlayStation VR 2. They just won't because they don't have a game for it right now. And it's not like Call of the Mountain is some mind-blowing thing where you need to get a PlayStation VR 2 right this second and jump in there and climb a mountain. You don't need it. It's not that life-changing. It looks pretty, but that's it. So until they get Half-Life Alyx 2, until they get a dedicated PlayStation VR 2 game that is absolutely insane, make you bloat in your pants kind of crazy, it's just not gonna matter, dude. It's just not gonna matter. They gotta do something big because even though it's only been a few months, that people have basically forgotten that the PlayStation VR 2 exists. So you gotta start announcing something cool. You gotta get it into more people's hands, and you gotta let us know that the future of virtual reality on PlayStation is going to be huge. That's all they need to do. Make us trust in virtual reality, because right now, people just don't care, and people don't believe it. I think all people think is that in a year, this thing is gonna be dead. 100% dead.
Oh shit, I'm tweaking, bro.